She thought she had won. HOA Karen called the cops on a black man just for moving out of his home. But what she didn't know? His son was one of the responding officers, and when he showed his badge, everything changed. For David Johnson, moving day was supposed to be simple. After years of living under a tyrannical HOA, he had finally sold his house and was ready to leave the nightmare behind. The truck was loaded, the papers signed, and all he had left was a final goodbye to the neighbors who had quietly supported him through the years. But one person couldn't let go: Karen, the HOA president. To her, David moving out wasn't relief, it was an insult. She hated the idea that he was leaving on his own terms instead of being forced out, and in her twisted mind, she decided she'd have the last word. As David carried his last box to the truck, Karen stormed over, heels clacking against the driveway. "You can't just leave like this," she snapped. "The HOA hasn't approved your move out." David frowned, exhausted, but calm. "I don't need HOA approval to move out of my own home. The sale's finalized." But Karen wasn't listening. She sneered, pulled out her phone, and began dialing. "Then I'll let the police handle this. You're violating HOA procedures." Neighbors peeked out from windows, shaking their heads. They had seen Karen do a lot of outrageous things, but calling the cops on a man for moving out? This was beyond absurd. Minutes later, flashing lights painted the street red and blue. Karen stood tall, ready to see David humiliated one last time. "Finally," she muttered, "justice will be served." Two officers stepped out of the cruiser. One of them, a tall young man with a firm jaw and sharp eyes, froze when he saw David. His face softened. "Dad?" he said quietly. David's eyes lit up. "Son?" The crowd gasped. Karen blinked in confusion. "What? He's your father?" Officer Johnson stepped forward, his badge gleaming. "Yes, ma'am. He's my father. And what exactly is the emergency here?" Karen sputtered, her words tripping over each other. He's leaving without HOA approval. That's against the rules. He can't move out without us signing off." Officer Johnson's jaw tightened. He turned to his partner, then back to Karen. "You called 911 for this? Ma'am, do you realize abusing emergency services is a crime?" David stood quietly, arms crossed, watching as his son handled the situation with authority. The tables had turned, and Karen was finally losing control. But Karen wasn't done. Desperation bled into her voice. "He's breaking HOA. Law, arrest him!" she screamed, pointing at David like a child throwing a tantrum. Officer Johnson's partner shook his head in disbelief. "HOA law isn't real law. Homeowner associations can't stop someone from leaving their own house. He's free to go." The crowd of neighbors began whispering louder, some even laughing. Karen's face turned red, but she kept yelling, "This is harassment. He's disrespecting me. I demand you arrest him." Officer Johnson took a slow breath. Then, in a voice sharp as steel, he said, "You're right, ma'am. Someone is getting arrested tonight." Karen's smugness returned for a split second until she saw him step toward her. "Karen Miller, you're under arrest for filing a false police report and abusing emergency services." The street erupted in gasps. Karen's clipboard clattered to the ground as Officer Johnson pulled out his handcuffs. She thrashed and wailed, "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president." David, standing calmly by his truck, finally smiled. "And I'm the homeowner who's leaving. Goodbye, Karen." Karen's screams echoed down the block as she was placed in the back of the cruiser. Neighbors pulled out phones, recording every second. By morning, the videos were all over social media. HOA president arrested after calling cops on homeowner. Her reputation crumbled overnight. The HOA board held an emergency meeting and quickly voted her out, desperate to save face. David, meanwhile, finished his move in peace. His son returned later that evening, still in uniform, to help unload boxes at the new house. Together, they shared a quiet dinner, father proud of son, son proud of father. Karen faced charges and fines, her once feared presence now a community joke. Parents who once feared her walked past with smirks. The power she clung to was gone, all because of her arrogance and abuse of authority. Neighbors who had suffered under her rule finally felt free. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt lighter, happier, as though Karen's downfall had lifted a heavy shadow. This story isn't just about a move or an HOA or even one woman's downfall. It's about respect, about boundaries, about how arrogance always collapses under the weight of truth. Karen thought she had control. She thought she could twist the law to suit her pride. But in the end, it was her pride that destroyed her. And the man she tried to humiliate, he left with his head held high, knowing his son had his back. So, the next time someone abuses power, remember this story, because sometimes the badge they fear the most is the one they never see coming.